You've been taught your whole life that being kind is a virtue, and it is. But there is something nobody warned you about. Kindness without wisdom gets taken advantage of. Every time, I am not here to tell you to stop being good. I am here to show you what happens when good people don't protect themselves, and what to do about it. Because there is a massive difference between being genuinely kind and being endlessly available to everyone who wants a piece of you. If you've ever felt drained, overlooked, or quietly resentful despite doing everything right, this video is exactly for you. We're going to go through 8 honest truths about kindness, generosity, and how to make sure being a good person doesn't cost you everything. Oni kindness, without limits, signals that you have none here, is something worth sitting with. The kindest person in your circle, are they genuinely respected, or are they the first person everyone calls when they need something done? There is a real psychological dynamic at play here. When someone is consistently, unconditionally available, people stop perceiving them as a person with their own priorities and start perceiving them as a resource. Not out of malice, just out of habit. That doesn't mean you need to become cold or difficult. It means your kindness has to come with discernment. Who deserves it when, at what cost to you? Kindness that answers these questions is sustainable. Kindness that doesn't answer them eventually burns out and turns into resentment. 2. The psychology of the generosity trap. Why gratitude fades. There is a well-documented psychological phenomenon called hedonic adaptation. In short, humans get used to good things fast. The first time you do something generous for someone, they're genuinely moved. The 5th time, they expect it. The 10th time, they notice only if you stop. This isn't because people are ungrateful villains. It is because the brain normalizes repeated positive experiences. What was once a gift becomes the baseline. What this means for you, spreading yourself thin across everyone all the time actually makes your generosity invisible. Targeted, intentional help given less frequently, but more meaningfully, is remembered far longer. Scarcity creates genuine appreciation. Abundance can quietly kill it. 3. There is a difference between how you are and how you appear. Most people think being good automatically communicates strength. It doesn't, unless you also show the ability to say no, hold a line, and make a hard call when it is needed. Think about a doctor who has to deliver a difficult diagnosis, or a coach who benches a player for the good of the team, or a parent who says no to something their child desperately wants. None of these are unkind. All of them require a kind of quiet courage that purely agreeable people rarely show. Being genuinely good sometimes means being temporarily unpopular. And that is a skill, knowing when your soft side serves people and when your firm side serves them better. 4. Your energy is finite. This is a mathematical fact. Not selfishness. Think about the airplane oxygen mask instruction. Put yours on first. Not because your life matters more, but because if you pass out helping someone else, now 2 people need rescuing. This applies to everything. Your time, focus, emotional bandwidth, and energy are all limited resources. When you say yes to everything, you are not being more generous. You are diluting your capacity to be genuinely useful to anyone, including yourself. At some point, a relentless yes-sayer becomes a burden rather than an asset. Not because they stopped caring, but because they're completely depleted. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It is what keeps you sustainable. 5. Strategic generosity. Help fewer people. Better here is the practical shift. Instead of helping everyone a little, help the right people a lot before you commit to any request. 3 honest questions. Does this align with what I am actually trying to build? Can I do this without running myself into the ground? Is this person likely to use this help or just become dependent on it? If the answers don't line up, a kind but firm no is the right answer. Not every request deserves a yes. And when you do say yes, go all in. Make it count. Your help becomes more meaningful, more remembered, and more impactful when it isn't automatic. 6. Why the most taken for granted people are often the most giving here is a counterintuitive truth. The people who appreciate you most are often the ones you help least frequently. The people who take you for granted are usually the ones you help most often. This is hedonic adaptation again. But now it is personal. The more consistently you show up for someone, the less they consciously register it. The moment you don't show up, that is what they notice. Understanding this doesn't mean you should become withholding or play games. It means you should set natural boundaries that preserve the value of your presence. Let people occasionally solve their own problems. Let them sometimes wonder if you are available. Not as a tactic, but as a genuine reflection of the fact that you have your own life. 7 good intentions mean nothing without good outcomes. History remembers results. Not effort, not intention results. A parent who gives their child everything they want isn't being kind. They're making childhood comfortable and adulthood harder. A manager who never gives critical feedback isn't being supportive. They're letting their team stagnate. Real goodness sometimes requires the uncomfortable conversation. The honest review, the boundary that disappoints someone in the short term. There is a word for the alternative, being nice. And nice and good are not the same thing. Nice people tell people what they want to hear. Good people tell people what they need to hear. Nice people avoid tension. Good people resolve it. The goal isn't to be liked. The goal is to actually make things better. 8 legacy, what survives isn't agreeableness. It is impact. You cannot leave a meaningful mark on the world if you don't last long enough to make one. The most genuinely good people in history, the ones who actually moved things forward, were not pushovers. They had conviction, they made unpopular calls. They protected their time and energy fiercely because they understood that burning out in service of everyone's short-term comfort serves nobody's long-term good. Goodness and strength are not opposites. The strongest version of you is also the most genuinely useful version. Build that person, protect that person. Because when you show up as a depleted, resentful, boundaries-free version of yourself, you are not doing the world any favors, no matter how kind your intentions. None of this is about becoming harder or more guarded. It is about becoming more intentional. The most impactful people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who say yes to everything. They're the ones who say yes to the right things, fully, deliberately, and without resentment. That is the shift from blind giving to conscious giving, from being endlessly available to being genuinely present when it counts. Tell me in the comments which of these 8 points hit closest to home for you. I read every single one. If this gave you something to think about, hit like. It really helps. Subscribe for more content like this every week, and I'll see you in the next one.